Hi, so we're going to be talking about the two forms of linear equations today. This one should be familiar, y equals mx plus b. This is y-intercept form. And in 5.8 today, we're going to introduce standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, in which the a, the b, and the c all represent just variables that are going to stand for numbers. Like I said, we'll play with this a little bit later. Just wanted to just touch on it and plant that seed right now. So as we think about this y-intercept form, as you remember, this b, this term here, represents your y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So if I were to use my coordinate plane, where remember this is my y-intercept and this is my x-intercept, where a line, and I'm going to say this line here, where the line crosses my y-axis is at this point 0b. Okay? So this is the point 0b. Now remember, this m represents my slope. And slope we measure in rise over run. That's the steepness of the line. What we haven't talked about yet is this point here, where my line crosses my x-axis. What do we call that? Well, if this is your y-axis, where the line crosses my y, that's my y-intercept, I'm sorry, where it crosses my y-axis, this point will be called my x-intercept, where the line crosses my x-axis. So let's talk about that a little bit and how we can find that if we're given a linear equation. So keep in mind, my y-intercept is the point 0b. My x-intercept is going to be the point a, 0, something 0. So if I were asked to find my intercepts, and I gave you the equation of 4x plus 3y equals 12, and again I'm going right along with your notes, probably the fastest and easiest way to do this is to just draw yourself an XY table. Remember, this is a table, a strategy that you can use to graph any linear equation. It can also help you find the intercepts of any linear equation. So if I'm looking for my y-intercept, my x coordinate has to be 0. I'm looking for the y-intercept. I don't know what that y point is going to be, so I have to plug in and see what I get. So as I plug in, I'm plugging 0 in for my x. Let's see what I get for my y. So 4 times that 0, plugging 0 in for my x, plus 3y equals 12. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 3y equals 12. Well, that's the same as just 3y equals 12. Here's my y. He's being multiplied times 3, so the opposite of multiplying by 3 is divide by 3. Same sign, the other side, equal sign. So y equals 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So then the point 0, 4 is my y-intercept. Now if I'm looking for my x-intercept, that's when I don't know my x, my y-coordinate is 0. So we're going to do this one on this other side here on the left. So let's plug in 0 for my y, see what we get. So if I have 4x plus 3 times 0 equals 12. Well, 3 times 0 is just 0. So I have 4x plus 0 equals 12. That's the same as just 4x equaling 12. Divide by 4 on both sides of the equal sign. So x equals 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So now my x coordinate is 3. So now I have 2 points, and I can easily graph this equation. I'm going to graph it real small over here in the corner because I'm running out of space. So I would have the point 0, 4, so 0 on my x, up 1, 2, 3, 4 on my y. And then the point 3, 0, so 1, 2, 3 on my x, 0 on my y, so my line's going to look like that. Remember to put the arrows on the ends because it extends indefinitely. Alrighty? You'll have 2 or 3 more problems like that in your notes that you can look through and see if you can indeed find those intercepts by drawing your XY table, plugging in, and solving. Let's solve one more together, and then we're going to change topics a little bit. If I were to ask you to find the intercepts and graph y equals 3x, well, again, you're going to do it the same way. Draw yourself an XY table. And again, if I'm looking for my y-intercept, I don't know the y, so the x has to be 0. So let's plug in and see what we get. So if my x is 0, I have y equals 3 times my x, which is 0, so 3 times 0. 3 times 0 is 0, so I end up with y equaling 0. So I have the point 0, 0. Now if I'm looking for my x-intercept, I don't know the x, so the y is going to be 0. So let's plug in and see what we get. I'm going to do this one on the other side. So this time my y is 0. So I have 0 equaling 3x. Well, here's my variable. You want to ask yourself, what's the equation doing to my variable? They're multiplying by 3. So the opposite of multiplying by 3 is divide by 3. Divide by 3. Those guys cancel out. I'm left with x equals 0 over 3, or 0 divided by 3. Anytime 0 is divided by any number, your answer is just 0. So I end up with x equaling 0 there. So the point 0, 0. Great. So up here I'm going to graph, because I found my intercepts, my y-intercept, my x-intercept. So my y-intercept is the point 0, 0. My x-intercept is also the point 0, 0. I need some more information because I don't know what that line looks like, how that line goes through the point 0, 0, the origin. So in this case, I would just need to pick myself one more point. Let's pick, I don't know, x equaling 1. So if my x is now 1, let's plug in and see what we get. So y equals 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is just 3, so I end up with y equaling 3. So now I have a third point that allows me to graph. So the point 1, 2, 3, and whoops, I missed my point. And there is my graph of my linear equation. Okay. The back side, we talk about vertical and horizontal lines. This should be a review of some previous conversations we had, but I just want to touch on it very quickly while we're together in this video. So if I were asked to graph y equals 3, well, I'm going to draw myself. I've got a coordinate plane here. On my y-axis, remember this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, where y equals 3, 2, 3, there's 3 on my y-axis. It's going to be that point, and it's going to be a completely horizontal line. On this horizontal line, remember when we talked about slope, horizontal lines are like the roofs in Florida that are flat slopes. They have no steepness to them. They have no slope. So my slope would equal 0. Okay? Similar idea, if I have x equals a negative 4, when I draw that and graph it on my coordinate plane, remember here's my x-axis. So I want to go to negative 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is going to end up being a vertical line for me. And vertical lines, like we talked about, the flat roofs in Florida, a little more steep. The roofs in Wilmington, the steeples are very, very steep. They have a lot of slope to them. Well, if we're talking about roofs, a straight up and down line isn't a roof. We don't know what to call it. It's more of a wall. Just like the slope of a vertical line, it doesn't really have a slope. It's undefined. So our slope here is undefined vertical. If it's a horizontal line, our slope is 0. Okay? And that's it for 5.7.